the Bears lost a football game. What a surprise. But even bigger news, they fired their head coach on Friday. How did you feel about the game specifically on Thanksgiving? Like, what did you like to see, didn't like to see, just your general thoughts?
I went into that game with really, really, really low expectations. But yeah, that first half didn't surprise me at all. It just seemed like a team that was super ready to quit, and it was already quit probably multiple times over the season before. They had given up on their coach, and their coach wasn't ready. Say what you will about Matt Eberflus, he plays Ben Johnson really, really well. I don't think Ben Johnson is as hot as everybody wants him to be. Personally, it's one of those reasons that I don't want him as a head coach for us moving forward next year. I'd rather have Thomas Brown than Ben Johnson, frankly. Yeah, it was what I expected. Bears were pretty much ready to call it quits. And then the second half happened, and then Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams happened. And as always, I was locked in, and I was ready to win, and I was ready to stop being a negative Nancy about draft picks and talking about draft picks. And I've been ready for that, but unfortunately, Matt Eberflus is inevitable. He is like fucking Thanos. He was collecting his divisional infinity stones, making sure we lost again. So yeah, it was a fucking heartbreaker. Might have been the worst one of the year in the sense of it was probably the most avoidable heartbreaker of the year. We've had a lot of avoidable ones, but this one was probably the most directly avoidable. And so I hated every second of it. And yeah, it was a perfect cherry on top of the turd Sunday that was Matt Eberflus's coaching career. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm going to ask you your thoughts in just a second on what you would have done to end the game, because there was a sparked debate. I would call it a near heated debate on Twitter. I'm going to point out the J2K, the great J2K. J2K, if you're listening, because I hope you are, I respect the heck out of your opinion when we talk on this, and I don't think that you're wrong. But I do think that there was a much better way that they could have handled it, because when you are forced to have... Well, here's what happened. So to end the game, Caleb Williams was asked to run a quarterback draw on second and whatever it was, I think. So he gets sacked. Larry Borum, good old Larry Borum, the grocery bag clerk, whatever you want to call him, he allowed a free rusher sack on a quarterback draw. I don't know how that happens. So it's 3rd down and 26. And you've got 32 seconds left and a timeout. And all you can do at that point is run one play and end the game on an incomplete pass. How can you let that happen? What J2K's point on this was that you're not supposed to call the timeout, because the second you call the timeout, you lose any ability to throw the football over the middle of the field. And to that I say that is wrong. Because if you do call a timeout, it's 3rd and 26, and you do throw the ball over the middle of the field, 15 yards, 20 yards, maybe even a 10-yard over the field, right? You have more than enough time to get to the line of scrimmage. You have enough time to then run your team off the field and get your field goal kicking unit onto the field. You can't spike it because it becomes 4th down, right? Because this is all happening on 3rd and 26. So if you get it to 4th and 15, you cannot spike because you turn it over on downs. So you could do either that. You could also do it to the point where if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, you can't get the field goal unit on the field, you call 2 plays. In my opinion, that's what a good offensive team, a good coaching staff would do, is call 2 plays in that sense, right? This is the play we're going to run for one half of the field, re-rack, run the other side of the field if it doesn't, if we can't get the field goal unit off for whatever reason, in my opinion. I think that there are a plethora of options, but J2K's point specifically was that you can't call the timeout, and essentially he blamed it all on Caleb Williams. And I don't know how you can do that, because you're asking Caleb Williams to be the rookie quarterback who's being fed information in his headset while he's being picked up the ground off after a sack. And then you also have to have him be the game manager. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all, Dave. I don't know if you disagree or what.
No, I get J2K's logic. If this is a more experienced quarterback with much more situational football and situational awareness built into him, I just don't think that you can, for a lot of reasons. You can't expect a rookie quarterback to game manage, plus do all the crazy plays, plus bring you back in the second half, throw 3 touchdowns and all that stuff. It's so stupid, because this is part of what me and Paul said on our channel. Caleb Williams is going to have to overcome the stupidity of the coaching staff. And basically what Matt Eberflus is almost accusing Caleb Williams of doing is like, hey, man, I know you had a bad first half due to game plan. I know you brought us back in the second half. I know you single-handedly dragged the corpse of this team through my shitty coaching experience, but I need you to do a little bit more. I need you to run a 30-second drill on 3rd and 26 and also do it correctly and have a play ready in your back pocket and stuff like that. It's just asking too much, man. If you're talking about a simple win for a desperate team, guys, like, let's be honest, this was anything you could have done. Get fucking blocked again. Honestly, get blocked again. It's better than that shit. It really would have been. So, like, if you're Matt Eberflus in that situation and you have just had this, like, 4 or 5 week dog shit skid, my only thoughts are, if that is an instant play, right, make it a running back handoff to the right side hash so that you're giving Cairo Santos his favorite hash to kick from 57 yards away, 56 yards or whatever it would have been. Then I can understand. It's like an instant, quick running play just to gain a yard or two. You're not going to lose a yard or two. You need to give your team every chance, even if it's like 5% chance. Matt Eberflus is great with 2% chances. So if it's just a 2% chance of your team actually winning this game, give them that 2% chance. Let Cairo Santos kick his career-long field goal from the right hash. Indoors. Just let him try. It's inexcusable. It's been covered. It's been talked about. It's been, just absolutely discussed at this point to death. But it is the worst for sure this year that Matt Eberflus pulled off. That's why I said it was the most painful one because it was that avoidable. But if you go back to even our episode for me and Paulie, I said I'd give it an 80-85% chance Flus is fired after this week. Even though I don't have any insider knowledge. I don't have anything. You could just feel that vibe. 3 straight divisional losses in a row. And, it just had to be done. And yeah, give your kicker a chance, call a timeout. There's no excuse. So that's the one way to handle it. If you're handling it with a right side run it down to 3 seconds, make it an overtime game. If not, if you are, dude, call a timeout with 30 seconds left, run one play, run like your best outside beater, and then see where the chips lie. And like you said, if you have to, run your field goal unit out. Because I think at the moment when they could have called the earliest possible timeout was like 32 seconds left. And that's
correct. He was on the ground 33 seconds. So you're going to get another tick. It goes to 32 seconds, right? So yeah. The shitty part about all of this, again, the call was a quarterback draw. And I'd have to look back at it I don't think it's insane at all because you were in fringe field goal range already. And the way that they were defending that, to my understanding, there was enough room to be had for Caleb Williams. If he squeaks through the A-B gap, whatever you want to call it, I think he's getting those 10, 15 yards, and we're looking at like a 35 to 40-yard field goal indoors to tie against the best team in football. And to Cliff Victoria's point, I don't know if Matt Eberflus being fired would be a straw that broke the camel's back. I think what really happened was we were hearing rumors now that once the dust is starting to settle, that actually Ryan Poles was pushing for Matt Eberflus to be fired after the Patriots game, because that was the game where you really shit your bet at home. Should it be the team that is essentially down in the dumps? They're going to get a top 10 pick. No shot. That won't happen. And if you win that game, you're well and true on your way to fixing whatever weirdness happened against the Redskins. And you're really starting to talk about like the playoff picture. Obviously, it's, outside looking in, very difficult to come back and defeat all these teams in your division. But for what has been happening to happen again on Thanksgiving Day in front of the whole world, I think George finally said, you know what, fuck this, enough is enough. And I think this will segue good into the next point where some people are saying that the Bears had misdone the Eberflus family by firing him 2 hours after letting him do a Zoom interview. To my understanding, according to Adam Johns, he said the decision had not been made while Eberflus was doing that Zoom interview, which was roughly 10 minutes. So if Eberflus can, trash on Bears fans and their families for the last month, why can't the Bears, take a dump, so to speak, on Matt Eberflus one singular time? It's not like Matt Eberflus is going to go broke over this. He's going to be well paid. He's going to be able to get some time off with his family, which is fine. It sucks. I think that Matt Eberflus will find his way back into coaching some way, somehow. But Dave, what are your thoughts? Do you think that the Bears did wrong by firing Matt Eberflus the day after Thanksgiving?
No, I think big picture wise, and I mean we can go through the details because there's so many and it's juicy. And even one day after the fact, and Carl, I called you to just talk about it because it got so juicy one day after the fact, because usually it takes like a couple months to a year to talk about these kind of like weird details that leak out between, teams that try to keep stuff in-house. And I think the timeline of everything is a few things. One is, as much as I wanted to believe otherwise, this reeked of McCaskey interference from the start. As much as George has always said that this is out of his hands now and that Ryan Poles is in charge and Kevin Warren is in charge, George is still doing all of it. And he is the cancer of this team. I cannot emphasize enough. I've said it once, I'll say it 100 times. If George McCaskey tried to shake my hand, I'd reach in and I'd tell him to go fuck himself. And I would do it. That man is the worst. Secondly, you want to talk about the insulting nature of it all, right? Like if that's the point we want to start on, which is it insulting to Eberflus? Is it insulting to the fans? It's insulting to everyone because you punted on a season that Ryan Poles was actively trying to save. Now, lost in the shuffle here is, at this point, I don't believe, no, I'm quite sure, Shane Waldron wasn't fired. So who are you promoting to interim head coach if Ryan Poles is trying to fire him during the Patriots game or after the Patriots game? So are we promoting Eric Washington then? We never get the Thomas Brown experiment, which leads to Thomas Brown being interim head coach. So it's a very big sliding doors moment. But if you're actively talking about saving a season, George McCaskey, not by association, not by accident, directly stopped him from trying to save a season of football. These are rare, man. You get 4 years of Caleb Williams before he tries to get a trade out of here at this point, right? Because I mean, it is what it is. Like if Caleb Williams is stuck on this type of shit for 3 to 4 years, he will not be a Chicago Bear past his rookie contract. We can all just acknowledge
I would like to immediately counter that point by just saying that the Bears, I think firing an offensive coordinator in the middle of the season was unique in itself. But I know for a fact that the Bears had never traded a head, or sorry, we'll get to that point a little bit later. But they've never fired a head coach in the middle of a season. So I think just that act alone tells Caleb Williams that we are willing to move heaven, hell, earth, and whatever else you believe in to make sure that Caleb Williams is not only happy, but surrounded and put into the best possible situation. Sorry to cut you off there, but I think that Caleb Williams is going to be happy here moving forward, and it's this offseason is really going to be all about him. You're going to see that.
It better be, because I agree with you. Like, right, like the signs. This is baby steps of a mom and pop shop becoming a professional organization, right? Because I think a professional organization would have done much more. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Thanks. I think you need to do much more than firing an offensive coordinator when something is this bad. And what we saw is what you get. Like, I think that part of it is George McCaskey, and I said this to a friend of mine, the Bears are one of the best things that George McCaskey is. His talent is making a catastrophic mistake, fucking up catastrophically, and then fixing his catastrophic mistake, not by like 360ing it and making a great decision in response. He'll make a catastrophic mistake, fix it to about 50%, and then pat himself on the back for not fucking making the catastrophic mistake look even worse. So right now you are, let's be generous and say status quo to where you should have started this season, with somebody like Thomas Brown and a legitimate head coaching candidate who is an offensive mind, who could match up and pair up with Caleb Williams. If this has happened at the beginning of the year, we'd all be apprehensive and we'd all be second guessing it, but at least we'd be interested, right? If Thomas Brown was hired as your head coach day one, beginning of the year, because I think it would have gone better this season. But now what we're going to see is George pat himself on the back for making Thomas Brown have 5 games left to actually execute some version of a decent looking team. And then we're going to get like a 3-2 last 5 games, maybe even a 4-1 if we're lucky. And then George is going to be like, look how good I did. I fixed it. Look at me, guys. I did this thing. And in reality, this should have been the thing from the very beginning, or at least from the Patriots game. So don't tell me about how it's hurting Eberflus, it's hurting the fans. You've sacrificed a full season of football, George. I don't want to hear about who got offended and who got hurt. You sacrificed millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of fans or millions of fans. You pissed all of them off. You are dooming or setting back a franchise quarterback. Like, it's all bad. It's all still George. You want to talk about who got their feelings hurt? It's everybody, because George is a fuck up.